Gonna record the. Cool. So lovely to have everybody here. It's time now, so we're just gonna jump in and start. And I'm gonna do my introduction. For those of you who've already joined the last few talks, I'm gonna kind of repeat myself, so bear with me. It's just an introduction for our panelists and our new artists that we'll be showcasing today. So I'm really excited to host the crit with you and start interesting discussions on fashion drawing. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm also a fashion illustrator and a fashion drawing lecturer. And I've always been super passionate about just drawing itself, the things that come with drawing in terms of the techniques or, the feelings or inspirations. And I think in the industry, there's so many panels and talks about fashion design, but there isn't really much talk about the drawing bit, which is surprising because I think fashion illustration is such a big part of the industry, and we're definitely not really in the forefront in terms of discussion. So this is something Fida has brought to the table, and after having a chat with Patrick, we thought it would be really cool and interesting to create a safe space where we can just talk about drawing and get an insight to the artist's drawing process, which I find is the most interesting because it's so personal. And, we do it alone, so we don't really get a chance to express ourselves to others and, create a dialogue of what we feel behind the scenes, if that makes sense. So we asked our Fida members to draw the Molly Goddard show. So this show has been up for a few days now. We've had a range of crits where we asked our artists to draw in 2 hours and then 3 hours. And I think there was one that was 2 days. So this is a long one. And it's interesting to see how the drawing has evolved and changed. So we have more time to think about what we want to illustrate, think about technique and texture and details. So I am going to share my screen. Oh, before that, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to introduce our panelists. So we have Massimo. Do you want to go first and introduce yourself?
Okay. My name is Massimo Casagrande, and I'm the Dean of Fashion of Istituto Marangoni here in Miami. Pat and I go back many, many, many years, but I recognize some names because I know some of you guys actually exhibited with us during Ultramarine. So good to see you all again. And yeah, I'm super excited to be here today to be able to do this crit. I love Molly and I love what she does, her colors as well, and the textiles that she uses. And I really love her influences for this show. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how you guys interpreted her looks. So look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Melanie Walker.
Hi, thanks Connie. Thanks for having me. It's really lovely to be here, and I think that the platform that you and Patrick and Fida have created is just fantastic. It's such a lovely group to come into. So thank you for having me. So my background is in design. I studied design, I did a foundation course, and then I did a degree in fashion design. I have had a love of drawing forever. I used to do a lot of life drawing as a child. Throughout my A-levels, I did a lot of life drawing. But actually, when I've been working in the fashion industry for about 20 years now, primarily in development and then later in design. I just never found I could get to the classes on time. I was working so late. And so now actually, I've been consulting since I've had my children within design, which has been fantastic. But it was really lockdown that opened it up for me. And I was pregnant with my third child, and I follow a load of fashion illustrators, as everyone probably does on Instagram. And I suddenly saw that they were doing all these online classes. And I thought, wow, I can make these now. I can put the kids to bed, do these classes online at 7 p.m. And for me, it's perfectly reignited my love of drawing. And so now I'm actually selling and working as an illustrator and as a consultant at the same time. So I sort of work 50-50. And I'm really excited, like Massimo has touched on, to see how the illustrators translate the Molly Goddard show. I think her clothing is beautiful, the proportions are fantastic to draw, the colours are amazing, and obviously the texture. So I'm excited to see what you have.
Thank you. We're really glad you're here. Next is Audrey Schilt. You want to introduce
Hey, my name is Audrey Schultz. I'm an American fashion illustrator designer. I worked for Halston and in the beginning of his career with Millinery and his first collection in women's design. I went on to be the creative director of Ralph Lauren's women's runway collection for 22 years. VP, I got VP. And I'm really curious just to see what's going on in the fashion world. I was very lucky to cross paths with Patrick, and I just loved what he was doing, the platform Fida. I try to help support it in any way I can. I think he's brilliant. And my first love is fashion illustration. I majored in it at FIT, and I graduated with a fashion illustration and advertising design degree. And I just love fashion illustration. And I'm really curious about the young fashion illustrators, their techniques and their visions. And I'm not that familiar with Molly's work. I did take a look at it and it was very exciting. I saw, it inspired me, as an older fashion illustrator, to see the modernness of it, the way it was put together, the colors, the proportions, the styling. It got me very excited. So I want to see what the young fashion illustrators portray and how they see it, and see how it fits in with my vision. So I'm gonna, hopefully I can help them or they can help me.
It works both ways, doesn't it?
It does, it does, yeah.
And lastly, we have Sarah, if you want to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Privileged to be sat alongside Massimo, Melanie and Audrey. So lovely to meet you. And Patrick and Connie, thank you so much for inviting me onto this panel. I feel really honoured to be here. And I met Patrick actually a couple of years ago because I run a not-for-profit organisation called the BY Collective, which supports mental health in all of the creative industries. So my background was a model. I started modelling at 15. I've done a lot for Ralph. So I'm surprised if we might have maybe met along that journey. I've walked in most of Molly's shows, so it's a real privilege to actually sit here and critique about it from the other side. and what we try to deliver, and how I was wonderfully introduced to Patrick from a dear friend who was an illustrator as well, is he supported us through all of our auctions and all the fantastic artists, and we've also supported them back with lots of mental health support as well through our workshops. So it's a real privilege to be here, and I'm really excited to see what they've created.
Thank you. That's amazing. I didn't know you modeled for Molly as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting perspective. So we did choose a few artists. So I'm going to show you the first one. Is Anna here? Anna Carlisle? So this is her first
yes, I'm here.
Can everybody see this artwork? Yeah, so Anna, if you want to tell us a little about your technique and thought process that goes behind, because it's really interesting. There's a lot of energy here and texture. So if you want to tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, sure. Although we had a week on this due to some other stuff going on, I did actually turn these around pretty quickly. This was one I started maybe yesterday and then had a quick tighten up of today. So it's acrylic. I just love the textures. Molly Goddard, when I think of Molly Goddard, it's all the tulle and the net and the lighter fabrics, but actually this collection was a lot more sort of knitwear and heavier fabrics, and they brought in the Lurex fabrics from Italy, I think. So it was really just trying to show the texture of that sort of heavier fabric. And this was just a zoom in of one of the runway shots. It's I don't really think about things too much, Connie, to be honest. I move around different medium and fashions and all that.
We also have another one of your work which we wanted to share as well. Sorry, let me share my screen again. Yeah, everybody can see that.
Yeah, so these are relatively quick. These are maybe sort of an hour, 2 hours.
Yeah.
Over sort of a bit of time, and just as I said, I sort of look at the clothes and the collections and just think what's going to work with this. And sometimes it's ink, and sometimes it's paint, and sometimes it's drawing.
Yeah.
Like my story is very like Melanie's. I worked in industry as a designer, and then I sort of fell out of everything, and lockdown got me drawing again and interested. And I'm sort of trying to keep going despite being back at work and the world happening again.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Is there anything you wanted to add in terms of the inspiration or?
Like I said, the whole collection I thought was really lovely. I love that sort of tinsel yarn that was in that skirt there, and in some of the other pieces. And it just sort of felt really fresh and modern, and actually a bit of a step away from sort of what people would maybe think of as Molly Goddard.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I'm just
yeah,
gonna
great
put
color.
them side to side. Sorry.
It's all right.
Side to side, so you can see both at the same time. Can everybody see this together?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we can hear from our panelists about your thoughts or advice or anything from these two images.
Okay, shall I go?
Yeah.
I think they're really beautiful. Well done, Anna. I really like the colours. They're really obviously fitting, and you've taken those from the show. The thing that strikes me is your composition as well. And I think what you've obviously watched the filming of the show too. I was actually watching that this morning and taking some screenshots. And I think the way that was filmed and the angles that you get are really interesting. And I think you've captured that. I really love the energy in your paintings. I think the brush marks and the movement are really beautiful. You really feel that energy of the show. And the texture of the clothing as well. And the way you have, like in the drawing where she's wearing the red hat with the knit scarf, the way you have this more transparent wash behind, and then you've layered up the paint as you build the image up, I think is really beautiful. So well done. I think they're very strong.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I love the texture. I love the one on the right, you know, with the little leather jacket, and I think it's really wonderful. And I think it also captures, like, you know, I think it's clear to see her inspiration, where it was sort of mixing this 80s with the vintage 50s. You know, it comes across really well, and like the attention to detail with like the stockings. And again, as Melanie said, I think, you know, you've really captured sort of the knitwear with the one on the left with the red. You really get a sense of what it is. And wonderful.
Thank you ever so much.
And I mean, I get kicked out of museums because I like touching. I'm very textural, you know, so I'm automatically drawn to the one on the right, because I'm actually touching the screen right now because I want to really feel the impact of the paint. But it's really, really beautiful.
I felt that skirt particularly is an amazing piece, and I really wanted to put more detail in it, and I've got a terrible habit of going into things too much, so I think probably being in a bit of a rush for this helps, because I had to stop.
And I have to say, I also was a huge fan of like the silver tinsel knitwear, if we want to call it that. It was like absolutely stunning, you know. Yeah,
so I sort of feel I've got about 50% of it, but I'm sure there's more that could be done. I think I'll revisit it when I've got a bit more breathing space. But yeah, the texture and the heaviness of the knitwear, I thought the acrylic paint was a good medium for that.
No, absolutely, really nice. Well
Thank
done.
you.
Audrey or Sarah, do you want to go next?
Well, I love them. They're beautiful. They're very fine artsy, which is, I love the fact that, you know, they have that fine arts textural feeling. But as an illustrator from, I guess, past lives, I find them less illustrative. They're more fine arts. They're more, they are beautiful, but as an illustrator, we were taught to be more about the clothes themselves as opposed to the backgrounds and the movement. So I'm feeling it's lacking a little bit of that feeling of the actual garment itself and how it's made. It's more surface to me. And I'm not trying to be, I hope I'm not being overly critical.
No.
Okay, so I like the one with the red hat. I mean, you do have the shapes in there. I love all the shapes and the mood and the feeling. If I close my eyes, it's beautiful. But it doesn't say to me what the clothes, if I just saw it, and I didn't see the show, okay, I have to say I couldn't turn the video on. So I only saw the stills. So the movement that you brought forward, you probably did get from that show, and that I missed. But the clothes themselves, I feel like need more attention. In order to, you know, say something as an illustrator if these were appearing in a magazine or something, I would think that more attention to the actual clothing and not so much the mood and the backgrounds and the paint, which I think should be included, but the clothes themselves, I don't know what they are.
Yeah, no, I think I sort of touched on that. I don't feel I did that skirt justice at all, for sure. And yeah, they are a little bit, as I said, a bit quicker. So I was sort of going, they are a bit more expressive maybe. And I do dabble towards the painting end of things sometimes, a more fine art process sometimes. So all taken on board, Audrey, thank you.
Which I think you don't ever lose that, because that's the beauty of your work and your signature. It's just maybe concentrate a little bit more on the actual garment.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. That's really good feedback, actually. Sarah, do you want to go next?
Yes. So this is coming more from personal opinion, I would say, as opposed to any professional opinion, because I probably have the least professional opinion here. But I personally love the texture. And for me, I love the context of the pictures. For me, the right-hand side one, I actually feel like I'm taking into the aspect of what I'm trying to create, that Portobello Road, her inspiration when she was growing up. I can really feel a story with that one on the right, which is why I think I'm quite pulled to it. I know Massimo was pulled to it as well for the textures and the layers of her movement. But for me, that really creates a story. And I think that's really powerful, we can capture from any type of creation art. And the one on the left, again, you know, the brush marks, reiterating what Massimo said, but the texture, it really brings to life, you know, even though you are zoomed in, and the accessories were also quite phenomenal in that show, especially like the long bags and the trainers, which roughed up her normal style.
Definitely felt a bit different from the usual.
Yeah. And I think that's something that's really beautiful that I feel like you captured, because Molly's style is quite feminine, and this year she has punked it up, as I'd like to say, and she's made it, you know, she styled it with a lot more of baggy jumpers and tried to tone down the feminine side of it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that accessory has kind of actually illustrated that quite beautifully. So I love them. And also the fact that you've done them in an hour, I just think is phenomenal. So yeah, I think it's fantastic. So well done.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you see something of it in it as somebody that's got the first-hand experience.
Only wearing them, definitely not from the artist. Personally, I love it.
Thanks.
I think it's quite interesting coming from an illustrator standpoint, is that sometimes we get advice like you just need to capture the mood, you need to capture the essence. And then we have the other part of us that is a bit perfectionist and we want to capture all the detail, the rendering. So it'll be quite interesting to get your perspective on that from your background. So if you're a fashion designer, like what do you guys think as a panelist? What do you guys think is the advice you would give us illustrators? Because I feel like personally I'm grappling with trying to capture the mood and essence but then I have a side of me where I want to render that face so bad, and then I almost sometimes I kill the drawing because it's too much. So we would like to hear your thoughts on that.
I think, if I may, it's sort of touching on what Audrey said. You know, if we're looking at shows like this, it's important to understand the silhouette, the shape, the volume, you know, that needs to come across. I think putting it in a particular setting of the inspirational side, I don't know. But then, you know, there's a freedom to it, I think, nowadays. I mean, Connie, you spoke with her the other day, Barbara, you know, that's what she started off with, illustrating from the shows. And, you know, she was complaining that everything was so static, the model just sitting there, and you had to, you know, I think it's finding a balance of being able to show, yes, maybe what the setting of the show is inspiration, but most important to see also what is the actual silhouette, what is the type of garment we're looking at, you know. And it's difficult to find that balance, especially, you know, coming from maybe fine art, and that it's not that easy, you know. I would never be able to do what you guys do, but, you know, I'm great at just doing the little fashion figure, you know, and I wish I could kind of swing over the other side. But it's just understanding what type of message you want to get across. So if it's mostly focusing on the texture and the garment, maybe less fine arty, and really try and capture that, you know. And just going back to what Sarah was saying of how Molly Goddard sort of, she punked it up a bit. I also really like the subtle hints to sort of the 1920s with like these long cardigans and like this lowered waist. It's because usually she's all about this volume that kind of comes from top out, you know, and everything was sort of concentrated at the bottom. I really, really love that. So yeah,
I weirdly
that's my 2 cents, guys. Okay. So yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, if I may just add something quickly, I think it's a really interesting discussion between fashion illustration and fashion art. And I think it depends where these artworks are used. So for example, if we're talking about competing or working with photography coming out immediately after a show, I think the information of a drawing needs to be there. You need to be able to see what the clothing is, the detail needs to be there. But maybe something like Anna's, which is more expressive, that could work in an editorial magazine quite easily, connected with an article, you know, a relevant article. So I think there can be a spectrum. But I understand Audrey's comments on the detail, and I think it sort of depends where the images are used, perhaps.
Yeah. I think that's another discussion. I mean, we'll get it onto later about where and how our artists, how we can help them direct their art, because sometimes I feel like as a creative, in anything you do, it's like an ocean and you have to swim and you have so many things you have to navigate in between and go through. So it's another whole conversation with that, I guess. But on to the next, before we lose a bit of time, is Jennifer Rodriguez here? We're gonna show her work very quickly. Even though she's not here, we can critique her artwork. So a completely different feel. It's another portrait. So I'll give you a moment to look at it and think about it. But feel free to comment.
I mean, she's giving a hint, you know, with the neckline of what's happening, but then you don't see the rest of it. I think maybe again, because if we're creating a show, it would have been nicer maybe to have seen the whole outfit rather than just the face, because there's something really nice that's happening at the bottom, but it's just there. It's like this little hint of what it is. So I don't know what the other one is. Maybe she explores more in the other one.
There is only one entry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was going to agree with that, actually. That was, I guess, from hearing all the mixture of comments about if you're having to just look at the art to understand the exact context of only the outfit and nothing else, not about the feel of the show or anything like that. I guess it's very hard to critique it on a very small section. You can tell part of obviously the hairstyle of the era that it was more leaning towards, and the more feminine tones within this. but then again you lose the punk side of it. So it's hard to kind of gain the essence of that if I hadn't seen the show personally and this was my reference.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think this is a great drawing, a great painting. And you can begin to see the texture, as Massimo's touched on at the bottom in the jumper, which looks beautiful. And I'm sure if there was a longer composition, we would get to see more of the clothing. But for me, I would like to see this in conjunction with another illustration, if this was in an editorial, for example, so you can see and feel more of the show.
Yeah.
To me, this looks, I happen to like this. It does say a lot about who Molly Goddard is. I don't even know her, but if this is like the hair, you know, it's kind of punky, funny, has a sense of humor. I see this, you know, it's like the cover of a magazine, you know, as one particular drawing, and it's very stylized. I like it. But as you say, I was waiting to see more of what she had to say about the show and how she showed her silhouettes. But I happen to think this is beautiful.
It's like an artist's interpretation. And I think sometimes we get carried away on doing the face because, you know, everybody loves to do a face.
Yeah, but this is kind of simple. It's not really like overdone. It's very French to me, or European. You know, I liked the spontaneity of it. Doesn't look like it's overworked. It's got a certain sense of humor. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, I love the colors and the mark making and the textures. And I think what she lives in France, well spotted. That's what Patrick said in the chat. It is quite French. And I think another conversation or topic question that I have for you is that a lot of illustrators just draw the face. And then from your critiques, I'm realizing some of the artists probably don't really concentrate so much on the clothes, but they want to express what they want to express on how they feel about the collection, if that makes sense.
Well, I think too much of that goes on. I think that's what I was saying before. The personality of the designer is very important to the whole aesthetic of fashion. You know, the designer wants their personality in it. And a lot of times the artist wants their personality in it. And sometimes, you know, without knowing it, they overpower the designer. But in this case, I think I see a lot of both.
That's
I think,
really interesting.
Connie, going back to your question as well, it's almost like photography. At the end of the day, I think you can be expressive by, you know, showing the body movement. If you look at photographers like, I don't know, Helmut Newton or Irving Penn or whatever, when they were shooting, or anyone, even Demarchelier, like the outfit is moved or kind of distorted in a way because you also want to show the functionality, practicality of the outfit. So I think, you know, yes, a face is expressive, but maybe if illustrators can maybe move the body in some particular way, you're still expressing how that outfit or that person can move, you know. And Melanie, just going back to what you said, I agree, you're absolutely right. We can use, you know, illustrations in different contexts, maybe in editorials. And what I loved was in 2020, in January 2020, like pre-pandemic, when Vogue Italia did a whole issue just with illustrations. There was no photo shoots. So all the editorials were done. And I just think that's amazing. And, you know, I wish we could see more of that, because then the illustrator has this creative freedom of, it's their interpretation of that outfit, that Gucci dress or whatever, you know, because there's no limitations to budget, to set or whatever. You can completely, and I think that that's absolutely nice. But I maybe like look at all these iconic photographers to see, like even Guy Baudin, the way he did the woman, or focusing on certain parts of an outfit could be a good way for illustrators to find other ways of showing expression that isn't just the face, maybe.
Yeah.
And I love the contrast color she has,
Yeah.
like on the neck over here. I love, you know, that hint of expressionism over there. It's really nice.
It's very delicate, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And now she looks French, now that we know she's from France.
I'd love to say one thing, actually. It was really interesting. I love that you mentioned she was French as well, because I really saw that when Audrey said it, because she's very chic. There's a status about her. And it's interesting talking about the silhouette of the body, and obviously and I think maybe it's important to understand what the artist is trying to capture. Is it the full outfit of the show, or is it more the feeling in the face? And as a model, you are invisible. You know, your face, obviously your face is you're chosen for part of it, but it's more about the silhouette, and I think that you're creating on that show, which is why everyone has quite straight faces. And that, I guess that's how I felt from all the many shows I've done over the years from the different cities. So it's interesting to hear on the other side of what artists are seeing and feeling in the facial expressions, because it brings life to that photo. And I think that's really beautiful. And actually, when I buy art, generally, I'm always really attracted to faces and stories and things behind that. That's a big attraction for me. I guess this is a different story entirely, but it's interesting hearing it from the other side, where actually you're not meant to really be having any relationship at all with the face. You're meant to be quite glazed and in fashion shows, and that's how it's quite interesting just hearing that conversation about the artist's perspective and hearing it on the other side.
Yeah, it's likewise.
Look how interesting she made this conversation. I mean, just showing that just a simple face, she made us realize there's more to just the show. It's more about, the feeling of the models that she saw coming down the runway, and she focused in on that. And I don't know if I agree that the model is unimportant or the face disappears. Look at all these models that are on the covers of magazines. I mean, it's all because they're beautiful or they have a unique look. I think the model is extremely important to the designer and the show and the mood of the collection. I don't think they disappear. I think they just become part of the artistic direction of the show.
Yeah. I think it's a different story with magazines to shows, just from my experience of doing them.
But it's really interesting because obviously as designers, we focus on the body in the sense the garments and all that stuff, so I don't want to say we prioritize that, but it's really interesting how you guys are just focusing on the face, and I'm kind of like, but wait, I want to see the dress because I've worked so hard to create the dress, and that's like,
I don't know what.
But then again, the face and the makeup is it enhances the concept as well, so it's important. But it's just interesting how we focus on different parts.
Definitely. And I think me and Patrick were having a quick conversation about, I think the illustrators and artists, we do tend to focus so much on the face. I don't know why, it's like an attraction, but there's so many other avenues that we can explore, like drawing bags or shoes, or doing more of like a product base, like drawing the garments and the clothes, rather than we always just tend to fixate on the face. So that's another way I think we can explore.
If you don't mind me jumping in here, I know that when I was younger, I focused on the face a lot more than I do now. In fact, I don't even draw a face sometimes. I just do an oval, or I'll put a wash, on one side, and maybe I'll put an eye in or streak a mouth across. But there's always the foundation of the face that's important. The structure, the bone structure, the drawing. If you're, as a young artist, you're still building that. As you get older, it's deconstructing it so that when you put that wash down, and it's a simple wash, or if it's an eye or a nose, you actually can see it beyond that without saying it. So you're actually editing the face. And then you have more time. Once you learn all that, you have more time to concentrate on the silhouette, which also, as a young artist, I would focus in on, certain parts of the design. Now I look at the whole design. I look at the volume. I look, how can I exaggerate this so it brings attention, but without losing what this garment really is, and that's the designer's vision. So it's really just a balance. It's an editing. You're doing all of this at once without knowing it.
Yeah.
You know, it becomes on automatic once you know it all.
Yeah.
Not that I'm a know-it-all, but
I love that though.
but that's been my experience, because I think I've gone through all the things that a young person would go through. I love the face, I love detail, I can make anything. I used to do, like, if you had a wart on your face, I mean, that wart would almost pop open. It was just, you know, that's how much I concentrated. But I learned how to edit.
Yeah, I guess that's life's journey, right? You have to go through all those things.
I think so, and I don't think you have to be hard on yourself, because all of you are amazing artists. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The talent is there. It's the, I guess I'm just talking about the quickness, the editing, the knowing of how to get to where you want to get to in less steps.
Yeah.
You know, and leaving the importance there.
It's amazing. I love that. Thank you for sharing. We're going to move on to our next artist. I'm going to share my screen again. She has a few pieces. I'm just going to share my desktop with you. Can everybody, oh, let's move that out. I'm sorry, you can't see my, where did it go? She has another one. Is Flamini here? I think I see. Yeah. Can everybody see these pieces? I'm just going to rearrange. Maybe we'll put that background there. Yeah. So we didn't get a chance to talk to you last time. So if you want to tell us a little bit about your process, your inspiration, technique, things like that.
Yes, of course. So last time I heard what you said about my work, and in the previous work I tried to design half body of the Richard Quinn show. And then I understand that also thanks to your advices that maybe in this case I should have take more attention to the silhouettes. And so I decided that basically, as Massimo also said before, maybe we should concentrate more on the silhouettes, because every time a designer tries to project a new collection, obviously one of the first thing is try to put on the basis about the collection and about the silhouettes that the designer wants to bring on the runway.
Yeah.
And so I try to focus on two of them, and I choose the first. I realized the first two were the two figures, the total body figures, and I realized them on paper. They were made with pencil, and adding some Pantone and also color pencil.
Yeah.
And then I translated them on a digital color addiction to make some details more evident. So, for example, like I want to add some details on the two knitters, but basically the most of the color was made with a Pantone.
Yeah, beautiful. Can we hear from our panelists about what you think about the artwork?
Yeah, sure. I'll go. I think they look fantastic. They're a real feast for the eye. You've really captured the texture of the clothing. All of this tulle in the skirts and the layering is captured really beautifully. Can I ask, so these are primarily done on paper, and then as you've mentioned, you've added some of the color and detail over the top digitally. Is that right?
Yes.
And that's just, I can see a little bit on the knitwear. Are the backgrounds done digitally, or are they?
Yes, the background also digitally. Yes, sure.
I think it's a really nice effect. And the colors come through really beautifully. Your proportions are fantastic. I love how you've written beside them as well. It sort of adds character. What I really like actually as well in the first drawing, is more a suggestion of line in the arm on the lady on the right. Some areas of the jacket, you can see a touch of the herringbone in the jacket, but I always love where you leave areas slightly blank and the eye and the brain automatically fills that in. So for me, that's really interesting. Mixed with the depth that you have on the hair and around the silhouette, which really enables these figures to pop. So I think you've done a really good job of creating drawings with expression, but also very well relaying the correct proportions, correct fabrications, and correct color. I could see these in a magazine instantly. Well done.
Thank you so much, really. Well, the third one is the really different one from the other two, from the total figure. That one was realized with a pencil sketch, and then I put on Photoshop, and I colored it with Photoshop, totally digital.
Okay.
And that one for me, yeah, it's like for me, it's like trying to find more freedom. I don't know if it's if I can make you what I say, because it's like with digital coloring, I think I can think more about where I wanna go. Like, for example, deciding exactly what parts I would like to focus on. And for example, this is exactly the discussion you were made before about the face and the need to go deeply with the face detail. And it's like I need this part, and I think that digitally and with the half body I can go through it. While considering the total figure, I need to go more deeply with the silhouettes and with the feeling of the garments. So I totally agree with what you were saying before. I think that maybe this one could be the balance for me. It's like if I go with the total body, I need to go more detail on the dresses and the garments. And otherwise, I think my feeling goes more with the face and maybe the garments are like, yes, I try to detail them, but maybe just with some little detail, not with the total.
Yeah, I have to agree with what you're saying. And actually the favorite drawing for me would be the first one, for the fact that it is very expressive and it's more minimal. I think the other two are fantastic as well, but they are so true to what you've seen. They become more, I could see them commercially in a magazine, whereas the first one for me has really got your essence of expression, which I think is beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the first one is really perfect. I think it's beautiful. It's got movement. It's got, you edited the prints, and we still see what's there. And the faces are beautiful, and the hair, and I love the movement of the background. I love the colors that are just, it's one color. It's very well edited. So for me, that one really is a winner. The other two are beautiful, but to me, they're a little bit overworked. But that's not really criticism, not overworked, but too filled in. That's what I mean, too filled in. But I think you filled them in beautifully. So this group is excellent.
Thank you so much.
Flaminia, you've chosen two of my favorite looks. The middle one, like, which was the third exit, and the one on the right was the last one, are the ones I absolutely adore. I might have placed an order for the last one, joking. But I love, Melanie, I agree with you. I love the first one where sort of the lines are missing. You know, it's almost like a contemporary version of René Gruot, where he did all these amazing, fantastic ones for Dior, where just by adding a line, you could complete the picture. I would love to see some of the knitwear, the way you've done the herringbone, sort of like the suggestion. It could be really nice, you know. I love that you're still using Pantones. We still teach Pantones here at Marangoni, but we also teach the Procreate and stuff like that. So we mix the two together. And I kind of agree with him. Maybe the other two are a bit too overworked. You know, I think if you can find that freedom that you have with the first one, with the two together, so I really would love to see also the tool, the way you've done that. I don't know. I think you've hit the jackpot with the first one. I completely agree with Melanie and Audrey. It's absolutely stunning.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sarah, do you have any last thoughts and words?
I mean, I feel like it's all been spoken exactly how I have felt. Exactly. The first one for me, it's the neon pink. I'm really drawn into it. It's really electric. I mean, my eyes were drawn to that one immediately. And I do think the other two are incredibly beautiful on their own. But there's just something so interesting for me on that first one. And I think it's the neon pink. And again, I'm reiterating because it's already been said, and I guess we've all picked up on it. It's the missing lines. It's where my eye is constantly going. I'm finding it a very interesting perspective to look at. And yeah, congratulations. I think it's brilliant.
It's really beautiful. We love it. Just gonna stop sharing real quick. Italian touch, says Patrick. We have a few more minutes, so because this is Connie's crit, I would love for you to have a look at my work, and it's pretty. So I'm going to share my little drawing there that I've done, and yeah, I did a little close-up using acrylic on an old drawing that I've drawn in my sketchbook. I'm doing this phase where I'm just drawing over drawings that I hate. And kind of recycling, yeah.
What did you use, Connie?
Oh, acrylic.
Okay.
Acrylic paints. Underneath is the watercolor drawing that I've done previously. So it's adding a bit of layering.
I really like the layering. It gives it like, it gives this sort of shadowy depth, which is really nice, and you're not quite sure what's underneath. And I love the movement. It's really nice to see the close-up. I can see here, and you've got, you know, the touches of blue I can see around the head. Was that, did you add that, or was that from the drawing beneath?
Oh no, I added that.
Yeah, that's really lovely. And then the movement you've got from the hair, and I think I can see a pencil line from the drawing underneath. Yeah, the colors are really beautiful, and the energy of your brushwork is really lovely.
Thank you.
And the blue is really nice. That hint of blue around the face, like behind the earrings, and that, you know, that shot of color is really nice.
Yeah.
And I love how it feels a bit editorial. Kind of, you know, you got like the full body shot, and then you have like the close up as well. You know, it's really nice.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like it's so. When you have the full body, you can't really see all the detail that goes into it.
Yeah. But again, I'm drawn to the textures, like even on the close-up, you know, you can sort of see the brush strokes between the hand and the dress, you know, it's just so nice. It's really, really nice.
I completely agree. There's something that I feel that's quite translucent about it as well. I feel like I can kind of see through the dress, which I'm finding quite fascinating, because on the top it's more of a block, but as I go, my eye draws down, I feel like it's much more translucent, and I can kind of see through it, which I think is really, really interesting.
Thank you. I'm trying not to be the perfectionist and render everything, because I have a habit of doing that, and you know, you get into your head and you just want to render everything. But I'm experimenting with not doing, just leaving some things unfinished.
I think it has a nice spontaneity. I love the dress. I love the translucentness of the dress. I guess it's a white cuff or a white band on the sweater.
Yeah, the white.
To me, this says Molly Goddard. If I were to guess, you know, her look, it looks like that would be identifiable, because it looks like it's, you know, a look throughout the drawings I'm seeing. I love the hair. I love the spontaneity of the hair. It's not so worked over, especially the top part. It's very, you know, immediate. but of course I never go without a criticism. It's just my nature.
I love it. We need more of that.
Okay.
Connie, what made you choose this one?
What?
What made you choose this outfit? I'd like to know, like, out of all of them, why this one?
I don't know. There is something about it that strikes me as odd. It's not something I would wear, if that makes sense. I was trying to choose one that not everybody would illustrate, if that makes sense. Because I just find the whole cut, like the blockouts almost, really
I agree. There was
interesting.
something quite awkward about those looks where they had these knits underneath the dresses. And actually, in reality, this dress was very solid. It wasn't translucent. And it was a very solid, fitted dress. So I think it's really interesting you've chosen this. And I agree, there was something awkward about it, which makes it sort of quite interesting.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, when you're working for a designer and you do these, you know, illustrations and you show your feeling in them, a lot of times the designer, in my experience, is very inspired by that. They may look at it and say, you know what, I think I want to do a translucent dress over a knit body. It looks really cool. So you're really inspiring, if you're working for a designer, you're really inspiring them by actually giving them a little bit of your own interpretation. You know, it's happened many times to me where I didn't even know what I was doing, but then the designer sees it and they say, oh, I like that, you know, and then they'll have it made in what it looks like in the drawing. So to me, that's what this is kind of doing. It's inspiring, you know.
I love that. But now
You know,
that we've talked about, sorry.
No, I just wanted to jump on what Audrey's saying. It's really interesting. It's got nothing to do, but it's just how maybe designers think. I'm working with one designer and she's creating all her little avatars on Zepeto, you know, so she's recreating her collections for avatars. And she says that when people are buying these skins to dress their avatars, they're styling her clothes in a completely different way. And it's just exactly what Audrey's saying. She's looking at how they're dressing their avatars and it's giving her ideas on how to sort of design her collections. And, you know, it's absolutely true. The way you interpret what we design is very important to see. You know, it gives us a completely different perspective.
I love how we can all just go back and forth and inspire each other.
It's circularity.
We actually have run out of time because we have another talk after this. But thank you all so much. I think this conversation was really, really helpful in terms of our artists who are going to watch this later as well. So thank you all so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting us.
Patrick says big love.
Thanks, Patrick.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Bye.